I understood death long before I ever knew the word for it. It came wrapped up with violence, pain, fear, and all those other emotions that words can never fully capture. But I guess that is true for any word. Saying something is not the same as living it. Lately, though, those dark words have not occupied my thoughts. Instead, my mind has been consumed with love and all the feelings that come with it. I have been trying to find every possible way to describe love. You see, when I gather the strength to move my mouth or scrawl out some words, I want to tell the one I love just how much she means to me. To me, love is all about transformation. It changes you, though it does not always let you decide how that change will happen. My body came from a factory, identical to dozens, maybe even hundreds of others. But it was love that turned me into something unique. I have crossed paths with others like me, with the same hard plastic limbs, soft fabric torso, and fluffy stuffing inside. But on the outside, I have changed more than most. Sure, I have seen others with home-cut hairstyles, but nothing as daring as mine. Others have painted on makeup, but none as bold or dramatic as the colors covering me. Whoever loved me so deeply to make me this way, they are gone now. My memory, or whatever you would call the awareness that resides within me, only came to life after their death. I carry a piece of them, though. Their blood left stains on my chest, faded now, but deep enough to seep into the very stuffing at my core. Love did not create my mind. Whatever brought me to life was something else entirely. My entry into this world, though, was eerily similar to a human birth, filled with screams, blood, and messy fluids. But we do not need to get into all that right now. Let me tell you instead about how I met the one I love. It was Christmas morning when Rose first opened the box I was in. The moment I saw her, I was smitten. She had short, spiky pink hair that looked like she had cut it herself and thick, smudged makeup around her eyes. She reminded me of myself in a way, though I had even less hair and far more makeup messily drawn on me in marker and nail polish. To me, Rose was the most beautiful person I had ever seen. If I had lungs, I would have gasped. If I had a mouth, I would have told her just how stunning she was. Rose did not seem to feel the same about me, though. When she pulled me out of the box, she burst into laughter. The girl who had brought me home stood beside her, and Rose hugged her tight, laughing harder. Then, to my surprise, she said, "I love it." My non-existent heart soared, until she added, "It's so freaking creepy." "Rose, watch your language," someone scolded from the room. Rose spun me around, showing me off, and I saw them all. The family. The girl who had picked me out at the store looked older than Rose, with honey-colored hair. Rose's mother had short, silvery curls, and her father had dark brown hair slicked back with gel. But then my gaze fell on someone else. A girl who looked exactly like Rose, down to the tiniest detail. The only difference was her chestnut hair and her clean face, untouched by the dramatic makeup Rose wore. It was as though I was seeing the original version of my love, untouched by the changes she had made to herself. I learned her older sister's name first when their mother scolded her. "Debbie, where on earth did you find that thing?" Debbie beamed proudly. "The thrift store. Same place I found Yogi Scare." "Of course," their mother muttered, shaking her head. "Well, as long as it makes her happy." They placed me back in the box, face down. My eyes were not flesh and blood, but they worked all the same, and I watched the rest of Christmas through muffled sounds and glimpses. Eventually, they gathered me up with the other presents. Rose hugged me to her chest. It was the first embrace I could remember. That night, when everyone went to bed, I met the rest of Rose's toys. There were others like me, changed and worn down. 2 dolls, battered and scribbled on like me, and a handful of stuffed animals, each with its own scars and quirks. I wanted to believe that the marks on them were signs of love. Kids playing too rough, scribbling with abandon, not born of malice. Rose placed me beside a teddy bear that looked ancient, with one side of its face melted smooth. I figured this must be Mr. Yogi Scare. The name stirred a distant memory of cartoons, but I pushed it away. Those memories were not mine. They belonged to something else, something from a past life. That first night I watched Rose sleep. I envied her. She could move, stretch, shift into a comfortable position whenever she wanted. I wished I could feel discomfort, just so I could banish it like she did. Since then, living with Rose and her family has taught me so many new ways to describe love. Love is the chaos of sleepovers. Rose and her friends sprawled out with candy and games, their whispers so loud that her mom has to remind them people are trying to sleep. Love is homework, her dad puzzling over math problems he cannot solve, and Rose gently guiding him to the answers so he feels like he figured it out himself. He has been helping her since she was little, and neither of them are ready to give up the tradition just yet. Love can also be found in the everyday chores like cleaning. Rose's mom always tidies up, even when Rose insists it is unnecessary. When her mom goes into her room, she cannot help but poke around a little. She always finds Rose's hidden cigarettes but never says a word. She just shakes her head and puts them back exactly where she found them. Love is loud, playful yelling. Rose and her sisters barge into each other's rooms, teasing and bickering. Sometimes they call each other names or play fight, while other times they just sit and talk for hours about nothing in particular, and yet somehow everything. Whether they are screaming about stolen clothes or doing each other's hair, you can never predict what will happen next. Rose and her twin, Daisy, often take turns doing makeup. Rose will draw thick, bold eyeliner on Daisy, and Daisy will match bright pink blush to Rose's hair. Watching them makes me wish I could join in, that I could adjust my own makeup and be part of the fun. Love can even be a tea party, though Rose's version is far from traditional. Instead of dainty teacups and polite chatter, Rose gathers all of us, her collection of misfit toys, into a circle. She does not play pretend or ask us how our day has been. She does not offer Earl Grey tea. No, Rose genuinely tries to communicate with us, as though we might answer back. Hidden better than her cigarettes and even her diary, I know Rose keeps secrets tucked away on her laptop, websites a girl her age should not even know about. For these tea parties, Rose sets the mood. She turns off the lights, lights candles, and sometimes plays eerie, atmospheric music. Then, she talks to us in strange languages, some of which sound vaguely familiar, though most do not. Occasionally, she speaks in English and I catch enough to understand what she is asking. She goes around the circle, giving each of us a moment to speak. She asks how we died, what keeps us tethered to this realm, and what our real names are. When it is my turn, I want so badly to tell her that the name she gave me is the only one that matters. Whatever I was called before does not mean anything now. Sure, I know Raggedy Dan was meant to be a joke, but it feels like mine all the same. For a while, these tea parties become a regular part of life. That is another way to describe love: routine. Love is knowing the rhythm of school, friendships, and homework. Love is watching the person you care about as they drift off to sleep each night. But then our routine shifts. Rose begins experimenting with new ways to try to make us talk. She buys a Ouija board, a spirit box, and an EMF reader. She never says the names of these devices out loud, but I know them anyway. These stray memories, fragments of a past life, remind me of something I do not want to remember. Whoever I was before must have been deeply interested in the supernatural. The Ouija board does not seem to do much, though Mr. Yogi Scare answers a few yes and no questions one night. Then again, that was an evening when Rose had been drinking, so I am not convinced it was genuine. Shouldn't spirits be able to sense each other? The EMF reader fluctuates slightly no matter who she is speaking to, but it never produces anything meaningful. The spirit box, however, is a different story. One of the other dolls, her eyes gouged out, manages to string together a few almost coherent words through the box before falling silent again. But when Rose turns her attention to me, something unexpected happens. She pulls out secrets I did not even know I had. As always, Rose begins with the same question: How did you die? Immediately, 3 words flash across the screen. Knife, neck, fire. I freeze. I did not think those words, nor did I consciously try to say them, but I feel like they belong to me. They make me uneasy. Rose's eyes widen, and for the first time since I have lived here, she looks at me as though she truly sees me. Her expression is a mix of excitement and fear, and if I could blush, I would. If I could mimic her expression, I would do that too. But deep down, I do not want to know more about my past. Unfortunately, it seems we are about to find out together. What is your name? She asks. I concentrate as hard as I can, trying to use the spirit box on purpose. To my astonishment, I succeed. The name Daniel appears on the screen. My chest swells with something that might be joy if I could feel it. I can finally talk to her, but my excitement dims when another name shows up. Lucy. Are there multiple spirits here? Rose asks, her voice trembling with curiosity. I want to scream, no, it is just me. But the word yes pops up instead. A moment later, another name follows. Andrea. I know those names, but I don't want to. Lucy tugs especially hard at my heart, and memories I didn't know I had begin to surface, clouding my thoughts. Lucy was a little girl, maybe 5 or 6 years old. She had cut my hair once, giggling as she fashioned me into her perfect companion. She kept me in her bed at night, a brave protector against the monsters she feared, ones that lurked in the closet or under the bed. But when the real monster came, it didn't crawl out of the closet or slink from beneath the bed. It came through the front door, bringing knives and fire and unimaginable violence. The word stop appears on the spirit box. Rose frowns, musing aloud. Lucy, Daniel, Andrea, I know those names from somewhere. Stop. The word flashes again, but Rose doesn't notice. Andrea's name stirs another fragment of memory. She had been a mother, often curled up on the couch with a book. Her cat nestled beside her in the same well-worn spot. Daniel was a father, arriving home from work smelling of grease and sweat, always holding off hugs until he'd had a chance to shower. Rose doesn't ask about them as individuals. Instead, she asks, did you all die together? I don't see what the box says. I'm pulled too deeply into the past. Smoke fills my lungs. Blood coats my tongue. Muffled screams ring in my ears, and I don't know if they belong to me or someone else. Heat scorches my skin as the fire grows nearer, and my vision blurs. And then, suddenly, I snap back to the present. I'm cold again. The familiar scent of carpet fills my senses. My vision is dark, save for the faint light seeping in from the edges. The screams are gone, replaced by Rose's voice, breathless and shaky. Holy fucking shit, she whispers. I realize I'm no longer where I was. Somehow I've moved. I'm on the other side of the room, lying face down. I hear Rose approach cautiously, her steps slow and deliberate. When she picks me up, her hands are gentle but hesitant, as if cradling an injured animal. Hey, spirits, she says softly, her voice trembling. I'm sorry about that. I'll stop asking questions like that. Okay? She raises the spirit box close to her mouth and says, goodbye. The next tea party is postponed. After that night, Rose starts looking at me differently. When she's on her bed, laptop open, she stares at me for long stretches. Sometimes her expression is full of pity. Other times it's a flicker of fear. Most often, though, it's curiosity, like she's trying to piece together a puzzle only I can solve. Love is the ache in your chest when the person you care about seems mad at you. It's the hollow emptiness when the constants you thought would never change suddenly do. With Rose avoiding me, I'm left to my own devices. I decide to see if I can move deliberately. I practice during the hours she's at school, discovering quickly that my design limits me. My fingers won't separate no matter how hard I try. My knees and elbows are perpetually bent, but if I concentrate enough, I can crawl a little. I always crawl back to my original spot before Rose returns. I don't want to scare her any more than I already have. Eventually, Rose forgives me. She gathers us all for another tea party, though this one is different. There are no candles or eerie ambience. Instead, she brings a collection of seemingly random items. A thick fantasy novel, a toy car in a disturbingly familiar model, and weathered stuffed animals that look like they've been through sun and rain. Rose addresses the group, but her focus is on me. Hey guys, today we're just going to talk to Raggedy Dan for a bit. I think he has a lot he wants to say, but I promise, if there are any other spirits trying to talk, I'll come back to you later. Okay? She sets the spirit box between us. For a long moment, she doesn't say anything, and I stay silent too. I brought some things I thought you might want to see, she finally says. These were left at the memorial in front of the Ward family home. Does that mean anything to you? It does, but I try to block out the memories. The spirit box speaks for me, saying simply, us. Rose's voice softens. People left these things in front of the house. I thought you might like to see them. Don't worry, I'm going to bring them back after tonight. I just wanted to show you how much people cared. For a while, the room is silent. Then Rose asks, I'm sorry for what happened to all of you. Is there anything I can do? The answer rises unbidden, and for the first time, all the spirits seem to agree. The words appear on the box in rapid succession. Blood, revenge, sleep. Rose looked at me with a mix of fear and determination. Okay, she said, holding the spirit box close. Goodbye. That night, as I tried to block out the memories of whatever I'd been before, I decided to try something to appease the spirits inside me. Crawling over to the borrowed memorial, I unscrewed my head. Maybe if I put something else in my chest, aside from the dried blood and remnants of my past, the spirits would stop replaying the fire, the screams, and the pain. I chose something for each of them. For the father, I took the toy car. For the mother, I tore a page from the book. For the daughter, I plucked an eye from a stuffed bunny that had seen better days. And for myself, I took something too. A pink rose from the dried bouquet among the flowers. I'd been others before, but now I was me. I wanted to hold on to that. Carefully, I tucked the items deep into the stuffing of my torso, where my heart should have been. Then, as quietly as I could, I screwed my head back on. It felt good to carry those small reminders inside me. It was as though I had a heart again, one I'd chosen, built from grief and love. Love is tenacious. It doesn't push the bad out, but it squeezes in beside it, reminding you that there's room for good too. The next morning, when Rose went to return the memorial items, she noticed what was missing. She just stared at me for a long moment, her expression unreadable. In the days that followed, Rose skipped school, pretending to be sick. Once her family was gone, she sprang into action, disguising herself in hoodies and beanies before disappearing for hours. Meanwhile, I worked on my own mission. With the objects in my chest, the spirits seemed calmer, and I felt stronger. I practiced crawling faster and dragging myself onto her desk. I even managed to hold a pen between my stiff plastic hands. I wanted to write her a note, a message that was mine alone, untainted by the spirits' voices. When the weekend arrived, Rose, miraculously recovered, told her mom she was meeting friends. I watched her pack her floral backpack with mace and a hammer. When she returned that evening, she set up a tea party, just for us. This time, there were no other toys, no candles. Just Rose and me, our first private conversation. She placed the spirit box beside me and asked, "Does the name John Varden mean anything to you?" The spirits answered before I could push the memories away. Murder. Bad. Killer. His face appeared vividly in my mind, arms wrapped around my neck. The memories threatened to consume me, but I'd grown better at letting them in without letting them take over. Rose continued, "The news says he did it since the fire. They found his fingerprints on Lucy's body. But the police mishandled the evidence or something. I don't get all the legal stuff, but he's free. just living his life. I've been watching him. The words careful and killer repeated on the box. My Rose, my sweet Rose, shouldn't be anywhere near that monster. I know, she said, trying to reassure me. I'm being careful. But I had to do something. She pulled me close, holding my tiny plastic hand in hers. You know, I've always been obsessed with ghosts. I've tried so hard to see them, to talk to them. I don't even know why. I just felt like I had to. Maybe you're the reason. Maybe I was waiting for you. Maybe I'm supposed to stop him. I sent the words myself this time. Don't. She laughed softly. I'm trying not to, I promise. Scooting closer, she opened her backpack. I broke into his house while he was gone. I found this. She hesitated. This might be upsetting. Then she pulled out a knife. It was an ordinary camping knife. I waited for the spirit's anger, their fury, but none came. No memories attached to this blade. It's not the murder weapon, is it? She asked. No, she sighed, deflated. Well, shit. That sucks. One of his neighbors saw me, too. They don't know who I am, but still. I can't go to the police now. I'm just a kid who broke in. She put the knife back into her bag. I'll keep looking, okay? I feel like I'm supposed to fix this. I know you chose me for a reason. I won't let you down. The spirits and I replied, careful. I will be. Goodbye for now. That night, I crawled over to her backpack and slipped the knife into the hollow of my neck for safekeeping. Rose was diving into dangerous waters, and I wanted to protect her. Love is violent when it needs to be, but Rose was not careful, or maybe getting caught was inevitable. On Sunday morning, she came home from one of her outings, trembling. She didn't say much, only 3 words. I fucked up. The rest of the day, she avoided me. She sat with her laptop, searching for something, occasionally staring at her phone but never making a call. Her mom noticed her strange behavior, coming in with snacks and checking on her. But Rose brushed her off. She didn't tell me what happened either, but I knew it was bad. Anxiety gnawed at me. In this body, there was no pacing, no fidgeting, no wringing hands. But I felt the dread all the same. As the day ended and everyone went to sleep, I started to hope that maybe everything would be fine. I fucked up could mean anything when you're a teenager. But then, sometime in the dead of night, when I was the only one awake, the doorbell rang. Rose stirred but didn't wake. Maybe if she had, she could have warned her family not to answer. But who expects death to knock on their door in the middle of the night? Even in a city where a family had been so recently destroyed, people trust the police. And most don't think to check for the signs of a fake uniform when it shows up on their doorstep. It all comes back to me now, all the fragments of memories I tried to keep buried. I hear a voice from downstairs. Good evening, Offic. It cuts off abruptly, followed by the sound of the door closing. I crawl toward Rose, trying to reach her, but the bedroom door opens before I get there. Her mother steps in, her face pale and tense. Rose, she says, come downstairs. There's been a family emergency. Rose wakes up, and I see the realization dawn on her face. The late hour and whatever trouble she got into earlier collide in her mind. She says, okay, Mom, then scoops me up, holding me tight against her chest. She suspects something bad, but probably something teenage, like being caught by the police for snooping or breaking into a house. It's funny how we think the world will end over things like that when we're young. We don't always realize that real, adult dangers don't wait for us to grow up. When we get to the kitchen, I recognize him immediately.
Varden.
The man who killed me killed us. His face hasn't changed much, but his eyes seem less hollow, his smile less wolfish. He almost looks like someone you could mistake for a real person when he's not covered in the blood of your loved ones. I can't make a sound, even if I wanted to, but it's already too late. Rose's father is at the table, held at gunpoint. Her younger sister, Daisy, sits beside him, tears streaking her face. Debbie, The oldest daughter, the one who picked me out from the thrift store, luckily isn't home. A small mercy. Varden grins when he sees us. There she is. Glad I've got the right house. That would have been embarrassing. He unzips a duffel bag and pulls out a handful of zip ties. Rose, right? You're gonna help me out here. Go around and make sure everyone stays in their seats. Okay? And don't get any ideas about leaving them loose. I'm going to check. If anyone can pull their hands free, they won't have hands when I'm done. Clear? Rose barely manages a squeak of acknowledgement. She begins securing her family, trembling as she works. I watch, forming a plan. When she finishes, Varden ties her hands too and places me in her lap. His gaze lingers on me, and I see the flicker of recognition in his eyes, but it stops short of certainty. Then he moves through the kitchen, grabbing candles. One by one, he lights them and places them on the table. I know what comes next. Just like Rose's tea parties, he's going to give each of us our turn. But first, he does something new. He gives a speech. You know, he starts, his voice light, almost casual. Despite what everyone says about me, I've only ever done this once before. I wasn't planning to do it again, but this one, he points at Rose, just couldn't mind her business. He pulls out a small can of chemicals and starts splashing the liquid around the table. The sharp, acrid smell fills the air. Still, I can't help but feel like we're meant to do this. If this isn't my true calling, why is it so damn easy? Why would you open the door if I wasn't supposed to be here? Rose's father is first. I never knew his name, but I wonder if his spirit will join the others in my chest. Maybe then I'll finally know him. I wait, timing my moment. Varden drags Rose's father into the next room. As I hear their voices rise, I'm still me, but I'm also Daniel Ward again, remembering how I begged, thinking if I just gave him what he wanted, he'd leave us alone. But I know better now. This time I understand. When he starts hitting and cutting, it's not because he wants something. It's because he needs an excuse to begin. I snap out of it and return to the present. I turn to Rose, and though I can't make a shushing gesture with my fused plastic fingers, I press my hand to my mouth. She understands and stifles her gasp. Sliding off her lap, I grab the tablecloth to muffle my fall, but I don't think it through. One of the candles comes with me. In an instant, fire and smoke are everywhere. I freeze. I'm little Lucy again, choking on flames, too young to understand what's happening or why. The fire isn't just around me. It's inside me, inescapable. Then Rose cries out, pulling me back to the moment, back to her. I stand up behind her, unscrew my head, and pull out the contents of my chest. Love is the knife you keep secret in your heart, to be used only in emergencies. I screw my head back onto C, clutch the blade between my hands, and move. All those hours practicing with a pen have paid off, making this moment possible. But a pang of sadness strikes me. I'll never be able to write Rose that letter. As I cut her free, the fire eats at me. My clothes are burning, and what little hair I have left is singed. Rose bursts from her bindings, lifts me onto her shoulder, and I grab hold of her hair. She stumbles to Daisy, freeing her next. The flames climb Rose's clothes now, but she doesn't stop. Daisy leaps up as soon as she's free. Rose runs to her mother, sawing through the ties. For a moment, I am Andrea Ward again, dying in the flames as they crawl higher. I don't know if I should feel relieved or heartbroken that my baby, Lucy, burned before facing the knife. Rose works fast. So fast that when Varden re-enters the room, he freezes, momentarily stunned. He doesn't have his gun. He must have set it down somewhere. Instead, he bolts toward the living room. Rose's mother is free now, but the fire has spread everywhere. Rose doesn't hesitate. She runs, full speed, toward the room where Varden had been torturing her father. The fire is in her hair, in her clothes, in her lungs. But she knows, if she doesn't stop him before he shoots, it's over. Love is walking through flames for the people you love, unsure if you'll make it to the other side. I feel myself fading, dying a second death. But even as the fire melts me, I see everything I need to see. I see Varden with the gun, frozen in shock at the sight of this flaming, unstoppable girl. I see her barrel into him, knocking him over, and then I see her grab the knife he'd threatened them with. The blade hadn't spilled blood before, but it's christened now. Love is slicing the jugular vein as fast as you can. Love is covering yourself in the blood of your enemies. I'm melting now. My torso goes first, then my arms and legs. They drip onto Rose in toxic, plastic syrup, covering her shoulders and arms. But she doesn't stop. Love is letting yourself burn to save your family. Love is letting someone else wear your skin. As my eyes begin to melt, I see Rose fall to the ground at last. She rolls, trying to extinguish the flames and wipe away the blood. I pray she survives. As I dissolve into her and leave this world, I try to send my thoughts to Rose. I don't know if she hears me, but I say them anyway. No matter how different you are after this, it will be okay. Even if you come out scarred and burned, you'll be a hero. Even if you die and return as a ghost, or as a legion of spirits trapped in a doll, you can still be loved. You showed me that. I tell her that she won't come out of this the same, and I tell her that's okay. Love is change. In my final moment, as Rose slows her thrashing on the floor, I hear her whisper, "Thank you," and then I blink out.